On the way down, their window cracked. 9,000 meters, still falling, two men sealed in a steel ball. They reached the bottom of the world anyway, sat in the silt for 20 minutes, and then nobody went back for 52 years. That was 1960. We have been back since, and what we found in the last 2 years rewrote what anyone thought was living down there, right as we started deciding whether to mine it. So what is actually at the bottom of the ocean? And who decides what happens to it? Start with why nobody went back. The deepest point in the ocean is the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, about 10,900 meters down. The pressure there is roughly 1,000 times what you are feeling right now, 8 tons on every square inch. In 1960, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh solved that problem once in a vessel called Trieste. It was so expensive and so nearly fatal that nobody repeated it until James Cameron went down alone in 2012. So for half a century, the deepest place on Earth was mostly a guess. And the guess was not much. Below 6,000 meters in what is called the Hadal Zone, the assumption was a barren, freezing desert. A little marine snow drifting down, a few scavengers. Scientists even proposed a hard floor for fish life. A chemical in their tissues protects their proteins from pressure, and the maths suggested it runs out of room around 8,200 meters. Below that, they argued, a fish simply cannot work. Then a camera off Japan filmed one at 8,336, 136 meters past the limit. That was the first crack. In July 2025, a team from the Chinese Academy of Sciences published something in Nature that nobody predicted. Diving a crude submersible called Fenduje, they worked the Kuril-Kamchatka and Aleutian trenches. And they found tube worms, clams, dense, thriving communities across roughly 2,500 kilometers of trench floor down to 9,500 meters. Not scavengers waiting for scraps to fall. These animals live on chemical energy seeping straight out of the seafloor. It is the deepest ecosystem of its kind ever found, by about 25%. And they were not finished. This May, the same institute published again, this time in Science, 7 hadal regions across Oceania. Hard rock surfaces at the bottom of trenches crusted with life. 32 species across 6 different phyla, most of them new to science. 2 so unlike anything on record they needed entirely new families. And the dominant organisms are not animals at all. They are single-celled, and they may account for a meaningful share of all the living carbon down there. The barren desert was never barren. We just had not looked. But there is a second story running on the same clock. Between Hawaii and Mexico lies an abyssal plain of 4.5 million square kilometers, about the size of the continental United States. It is called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, and lying loose on the mud like potatoes in a field are trillions of black lumps called polymetallic nodules. Here is why they matter to you. A nodule is roughly 30% manganese with about 1% each of nickel and copper, and a trace of cobalt. Nickel, cobalt, copper. That is a battery. That is the phone in your hand and the car the world is trying to build, so people would like to collect them. The seabed beyond national waters belongs to no country. Legally, it is the common heritage of humankind, administered by a UN body called the International Seabed Authority. It has issued 32 exploration contracts. 19 are for nodules, and 17 of those sit in that one zone. But exploration is not extraction, and after 30 years, the authority still has not finished the rulebook that would let anyone mine commercially. So one company went around it. Backed by a 2025 executive order, an American subsidiary applied directly to the United States instead, under a law from 1980. 65,000 square kilometers, 619 million tons of nodules. In May, US regulators found that application in full compliance. Not approved, but formally in the queue, with a decision expected early next year. And here is the asymmetry. Those nodules grow by a few millimeters every million years. The lump you could pick up off the seafloor has been sitting there since long before our species existed. And we do have some idea what disturbance does, because we have watched. In 1989, German researchers plowed a patch of seafloor in the Peru Basin, deliberately, to simulate mining. Scientists went back 26 years later. The plough tracks were still there. Animal life had partly returned, but density and biological activity inside the scars were still measurably lower than outside them. 26 years, and the seafloor had not finished healing from a harrow 8 meters wide. Commercial mining is not 8 meters wide, which leaves an honest position. And it is not a slogan. Nobody knows what full-scale mining would do down there, because it has never been done. 40 countries have called for a pause, others are moving ahead, and you are, technically, one of the owners. Common heritage of humankind legally includes you. Picard and Walsh sat on the bottom of the world for 20 minutes, looking out through a cracked window at silt they had stirred up themselves. 66 years later, we are still mostly looking through that window. And we are already deciding what to do with the room. That's Lifecasts, the forces shaping modern life. Subscribe for the next one.